Alright, so for the 455 project, I've kind of shown you a couple pictures of the deck. Obviously, I've already taken the gearbox and a couple other things off of this one. The idlers were completely shot, or mainly the bearings. Also, the idler arm that the spring attaches to was pretty well toast, or at least the bushing was, and so I basically have to rebuild all the idlers, everything else for this deck. The hubs, or the spindles themselves, turn really nice. I mean, obviously the belt's in the way, but there's absolutely no problem there, at least that I identified. I'll get those greased. The only condition issues with this deck is this is the first time I've seen this. There's actually a little bit of rust through right there. But I mean, as rusty as this deck is, I can see, I'm not particularly shocked about that, but there's not much I can do about it. I'm not going to weld it up or anything. The structural integrity of the deck is still perfectly fine. It'll just be a little bit more grass debris that comes up in the deck as you mow. So, you know, one of those deals that, you know, not necessarily the greatest thing in the world, but it is what it is. So what we've already done, and I'll go over and I'll show you everything that we've done so far and what I'm going to. Alright, so you've seen me change, I think I've done a couple of videos of me changing gearbox oil. Nothing all that big there. What we did is took the whole thing off, that way you don't have to take the pulley off underneath it. And what we did is we dropped the oil out, then we filled it full of brake clean, and then used it's an 18mm bolt on the bottom, filled it full of brake clean, and put a drill on it, and rotated it at about 1,000 RPMs for, I don't know, a couple minutes, cleaned everything out, drained it. Then we filled it full of gear oil again and spun it, and then drained that gear oil out, and then filled it up for the last time. Sure, you know, we wasted a little gear oil in that process, but I think in the end you end up with a much cleaner gearbox. It's all the schmeg and everything else is out of the bottom. You don't have to worry about it, and you're good to go. I just used the John Deere GL5 gear lubricant, 80-90 weight. I buy that, you know, I think I buy the case, so each one of those is a quart, and I buy them 6 at a time. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean up this drive shaft, oil the mechanism and everything else, get all that clean. That'll be just a 10-minute project, mainly just getting in there. Not necessarily anything all that hard. I'll inspect the shaft and everything for the extension. Next thing I'm going to do, and next part of the video, is I'll show you the bearings that came out of the idler pulley. Alright, so these are the bearings that came out of the idler pulleys. I cannot turn this bearing. At some point it has gotten so hot that it's melted the plastic. That's certainly not good. These just go down in the idlers, and they're held in by these snap rings. Since I've removed one snap ring, these are what these snap rings look like. These are the same way you rebuild the spindles on the 50, 46, 48, all the older decks for the 318s, etc. You just take these snap rings out. They're not snap ring pliers. You have to use a screwdriver to get them out. A bunch of cussings involved normally. So you get those out and then press out the old bearings. I'll get these all cleaned up and everything. The new bearings from Deere, you could probably cross-reference them. New bearings from Deere, $11, so $20 worth of bearings for both of these idler pulleys. They're exactly the same, and it should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and order new hardware. This was one of the retaining bolts. I mean, it's one of those things that the hardware is cheap enough that you might as well buy new. That way you're not screwing around with you know, rusted bolts and everything else. So all of it's in there to make sure I can count it all. Other than that, pretty much everything that goes back on there will be new. The bushing that held this was bad, so we'll definitely have to replace this bushing. But right now, my Deere parts order for this machine is sitting right at, I think, $200. So not all that bad to get it back on its feet and get it somewhat in better condition. Obviously, you know, there's some things that I'll attack later as I get to it. Here's the other bearing. The plastic is just falling off, and I don't know if you can hear it, but it's real good condition. I can't believe anybody, I mean, you can see it, how much it moves in there. So obviously those bearings were shot. You can probably buy the whole idler pulley. I'll have to look up and see if you can. I'm sure you can buy the whole idler pulley, but I hate to know how much it was. So we'll get this deck rebuilt over the next couple of videos. As soon as I get the parts ordered, I imagine they'll be in the next couple days. This video will probably be a week after that, as I get to it. So I think that's it for the first part of the deck rebuild, and next part will be putting everything together. So oh, I didn't show any of this on video. I had a friend helping me, and we try to get a lot of stuff done when he's here. But I bought a air hammer a while back, and that's what we used to push these bearings out, and that was very nice to get those in there. So anyway, thanks for watching, and more updates later.